Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gents. We won't discriminate here. It's been a minute to get to this point, but we made it. We persevered. Much like many of the people in the races this weekend. So buckle up. Lauren's going to give us a deep dive into all things Miami. And you're going to hear us yap. That's all I can say.
Nice. Beautiful.
All right.
Well, before we get into any tangents, I think we've got some congratulations in order this week.
We do.
Mm-hmm.
First up on the list, we've got a baby Verstappen officially here, so big congrats to Max and Kelly on baby Lily, which is just crazy because it means now there's going to be three lilies in the paddock.
Yeah.
A whole bouquet of flowers we got. Other big shout outs, happy birthday, Pato Award.
Yes.
Love you a lot, so much actually. It's kind of sick. And I guess, in a way, congratulations to Franco Colapinto, who has taken Jack Doohan's seat, which I think if you watch back to our kind of predictions episode, we did, in fact, bet that was going to happen.
No one saw that coming.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, we got one of those, right?
Huge, shocking surprise. Franco Colapinto is back.
Oh my god. They signed him as a reserve driver. It was with the intention that they were going to put him in that seat.
Yeah.
No doubt.
But, I mean, I'm obviously excited because Franco Colapinto is, like, one of my favorite drivers. Yeah. So I needed him to be back on the grid, as I've stated probably too many times on this podcast. But he's back. I'm excited. I'm kind of annoyed that it's the race after I attend, and he wasn't in Miami because Paul Aaron was there, so I didn't even get to see him. Pretty rude of them. But that does kind of suck for Jack, but he's still a part of the Alpine team. They basically just swap places, so he's become a reserve. So they're really just pulling a Dale Coyne.
Yeah.
And just having certain drivers for certain chunks of races, because they said that Franco's signed for 5 races and they're like how Jack was, and then they'll see from there. So they really are pulling the good old IndyCar Dale Coyne.
See who does okay and then stick them in it for the rest of the season.
Yes. Or just, even if he does great, throw him out anyways and put Paul Aaron in for the next 5. You never know with Alpine, now that Flavio's back in charge.
Oliver Oaks stepping down effective immediately, and then immediately the announcement that Franco Colapinto takes the seat. I want to know what the tea is behind that.
Yeah. I want to be a fly on the wall in those Alpine meetings, so badly.
You know there was some screaming, fighting, kicking, yelling.
Apparently, there was an email on one of the screens of the Alpine pit wall that the subject was Jack Doohan this weekend.
Not classy, guys. Not classy at all. Everyone who's been out here emailing Jack Doohan personally, sending him death threats, not classy.
Not okay.
Not cool. We don't do that. Not a big fan of him either. Not gonna do that.
No, let's not send people death threats. Not a good look.
I don't wish negativity or bad things on him. I feel like that does really suck, because even too, he didn't get... I mean, he got a fair shot, but, how fair of a shot?
Yeah. I mean, at least he's not, completely booted, and so...
Yeah. And most of his failures were not only, his own.
Yeah. That's true.
It was a lot of, circumstantial things, either other people hitting him, mechanical issues. So not necessarily that he can't drive a car, but just that, in the 6 races he had, fate really was not looking out for him.
Yeah, and then it just gave Flavio enough reason to be like, you're out.
I also think, too, I was wondering, and I think this could be a big part of it, what makes an F1 team go round? Why did we keep Checo in a seat? Sponsors. You know who has a lot of sponsors? Franco Colapinto. You know what they don't have anymore? A Latin driver, South American driver, because Bortoletto's technically Brazilian.
Yeah.
So he speaks Portuguese versus, we used to have Checo, which really brought the, Spanish-speaking Latin fan base to the table. He's gone. Franco Colapinto rallies that attention right back to Alpine, money in their pockets.
Exactly. But it was so funny, the moment, and obviously, Jack's DNF in the race in Miami wasn't his fault either, he got a puncture, but, the moment that happened, I just looked around to everyone, and we all kind of, had the same look,
He's done.
Next race, we're not going to be seeing him.
He's
like,
done
everyone just kind of was like, okay.
That, like, awkward, uncomfortable, like, I know what this means, and it's not a good thing.
Not a good look.
But speaking of Miami, Lauren, you were there in person.
I was there.
Working like a dog.
Actually, like a dog. I mean, I had a great time. I would do it again, but the day Friday, we worked. The bus left the hotel at 5 in the morning, hence meaning I had to get up at 4:15. We got home at 9 o'clock that night.
Oof.
And it was like 85 degrees and humid in Miami. But, I mean, all things considered, the fact that we had, like, all this rain, everything went pretty smoothly. Like, obviously, the F1 Academy Race 2 got canceled. But besides that, like, there was not really any other, like, major delays to sessions or, like, cancellations that there could have been with the rain and whatnot and, like, having to reshuffle everything. But, yes, I was in Miami. I was working as a pit grid marshal again, which was super fun. So it was obviously F1 and then F1 Academy and then the Porsche Carrera Cup. And then, obviously, like, Sport Paddock, we're not technically, like, in charge of the hot laps, but we have to, like, help them get out, too. And then there was this other, like, Miami club car people that just, like, also had fancy cars that they drove around. So we helped with them, too. So there was a lot of different sessions and cars and moving pieces happening this weekend versus last year's Miami, which wasn't as hectic.
Intensive.
Yes. But today, finally, this is Wednesday that we're recording this, I watched back the sprint and the race because I hadn't seen them. It was like, yes, I was standing, like, on the pit wall for all the sessions, but, like, besides what I could see, like, the screen is so high up. Like, in COTA, it's so easy to watch the screens, but in Vegas and Miami, they're, like, on the third floor, and it's, like, you're straining your neck to see them. And then I know, like, what happens in the pit lane, but besides that, I was like, I don't really actually know what went on at all. But, I don't know, what do we want to start off?
I only have, like, 3 really short bullets for the singular free practice session. It was that Oscar was on top of the times. Someone left tools inside of Lando's car.
I saw that.
And then that the session gets red flagged late after Ollie crashes.
Oh, yeah.
Which kind of just, that sets the times.
Yeah.
I don't think they resumed afterwards.
No, because it was like a couple minutes before the end of the session, so they just ended it.
And then from there, sprint quali. Yuki, my boy, what the hell, out in Q1.
Yeah.
18.
He didn't make it to the line in time to do a second lap.
I'm blaming it on Max. I'm blaming it on Red Bull. I'm blaming it on Max and I'm blaming it on Red Bull because he slowed down because Max was in front of him and he's being a good second driver. Bad communication from Red Bull. Not telling him Max is going to be coming into the pits. Ignore him. Keep going. But it's fine. Whatever.
Kimi Antonelli, sprint pole.
Unreal.
Absolutely mega lap from him. Like, the Mercs were pretty decent around Miami. I'll give him that.
I'm so mad about it.
Which, I'm not happy. I mean, I'm happy for Kimi because I like Kimi, but we'll get into the whole George thing later because not loving that.
Youngest person to ever take a pole in any format in F1. So he's now, I think Max was the last person to hold that record.
Yep, he beat it. So that's kind of crazy.
I guess Toto's weird witchcraft juju that he's been manifesting is starting to work.
Yeah, I guess Toto might have been right. I'll give it to him.
I'm still not convinced he's the next Max Verstappen, though.
No. Well, I mean, we'll just have to see how it goes.
I think anyone will ever be the next Max Verstappen. Like, I don't think the universe could handle it. I think it's going to be like one and done situation.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same way, like, Max isn't the next Lewis Hamilton.
Like they're very different.
When you are a great driver like that, you carve your entire own identity and path.
Yeah, and they both have, like, very different driving styles. They have very different personalities. They're just both really good.
Any one driver is the next this person is, like, I don't know that you can ever really live up to that
expectation, yeah.
Right. Instead of letting them just carve their own path and say, like, they're going to be the next great driver.
Yeah, very true.
Kimi, sprint pole. Oscar, P2, Lando, P3. So McLaren's still looking like a rocket ship.
Yep.
Nothing has gone awry there. Carlos P15 after a lockup.
Sad stuff.
But rest of the weekend for him.
Williams this weekend. I got my Williams shirt on.
When your top 4 teams are like McLaren, Mercedes, Ferrari, and Williams, everyone should be concerned. Because that's crazy.
Well, the Red Bulls did better than Ferrari, so I would put Ferrari as like the 5th fastest team.
The singular Red Bull.
Yeah.
I guess if you average them out, the 2 of them combined, maybe.
Yeah. But I know the fact that like Carlos to Williams has been like a low-key upgrade for him is kind of wild.
Well, I literally told you I had a dream the other night and Carlos was in it, and I literally said to him, I said, aren't you so happy you ended up in the better seat anyway? And I was like, no, that's exactly how I feel about it.
Yeah, especially after this weekend. It was like very impressive.
I told you guys he was going to drag that cinder block of a car across the finish line one way or another.
I mean, and they were very close to podiums this weekend too, which was crazy. So I think it could very well pan out, and I will give all credit to Kaylee when it does.
Yeah, I think had Charles and Lewis not behaved themselves as much as they did, and because I was like, oh, they're going to crash out into each other, aren't they? Then it would have been like Williams podium. Crazy.
Yeah. Or if George had just, crashed into Max.
Max
then
and
Alex would have come
took
P3.
each other out.
I was literally like trying to manifest that so hard watching the race. And I was like, if George and Max could just collide, then Alex Albon gets P3.
Right, or like a DSQ something.
Something, but no.
Sprint race.
Lauren, was
you were there for this heavy rain.
Oh my gosh. So I didn't get soaked this time because I was working in the support paddock and I didn't have like a grid spot for F1, just for F1 Academy. And so we had walked over from the support paddock and come in to the pit lane, and there was kind of like a covered area at the end of all the garages, kind of where the firefighters had their stuff and like all this. That we were like, hey, we'll put our bags here because we think it's gonna rain. And all of us, because it had been like sprinkling on and off, we're like, let's just put our ponchos on because it looks like it's gonna rain. Everyone put their ponchos, their jackets on, whatever. And then it started pouring. And mind you, at this point, all the marshals that have to be out on the front straight for the start, like to do the starting grid, we're all out there with no jackets on. Ooh. We have white button-down shirts. Ooh. So everyone is just getting absolutely soaked. Everyone's bags are getting soaked because like all the people who are out there already like didn't have time to come obviously put their bags under cover. So we like really lucked out because our bags were dry and we had our like rain gear on. But it was just so sad watching everyone stand out there just get absolutely drenched. But then this is actually what's crazy that happened. So they decide that they're going to like start the formation lap under safety car to kind of like suss out the conditions. And you can hear this when you're watching the broadcast too. They didn't they couldn't figure out if the start had been aborted or if they were doing a second formation lap or like what was going on. And our green flag girl, like the person who stands at the back with the green flag, was still left out there because we thought that they were still gonna, because no one had told us otherwise, pull into their grid spots, like slow down as they come and pull into their grid spots, and the safety car would go. No, they came at full speed around that corner with the safety car. She's standing out there alone in the rain. She can't see anything, like hunched up against the wall, like trying to like protect herself as much as she could.
Oh my God.
How terrifying is that? And so we were all like, what the hell? Like, why is she out there? Why are they coming through? Because like no one at race control, like it hadn't been communicated what was going on. And apparently there was no camera on her. So the one person who was out there when the cars are coming through, whether they're pulling into their grid spots or not, there's one person out there and there's not a camera on her.
Yeah.
So they didn't know that she was out there.
That's crazy.
And so she was like shaking. Like, I mean, that would have been terrifying because it's raining too. Yeah. So like they wouldn't be able to see her. Like they didn't really see what's in front of them. So thankfully she, was fine and we got her in. But that was like a drama because then some people got yelled at and there is now a camera.
Good.
Where like
good.
But I can't even imagine. Like, that, I would have been, like, the fact that she then went out and did it for all the other races, I would have been like, someone else can have that job. I'm not going back out there.
I know which I joke about drivers hitting me with their car all the time. Not in that condition.
No.
Not like that.
And this whole weekend was rainy, and, like, big props to her for keeping going back and doing it for the other races, because I would have been like, someone else can take that. I'm not standing out there with 20 cars driving at me again.
Yeah.
So
not only was the weather super terrible and the visibility also terrible, to the point that they had to, like, eventually decide to actually abort the start. Charles Leclerc crashes out before he even gets to the grid.
Yep. And I only knew about that because then all of a sudden we get, like, the radio call, like, control to recovery, car 16 will be coming to you after the race on a rollback. And I was like, when did Charles crash?
No.
I was like, oh no.
What else is new with him?
Yeah, I wasn't really surprised at that point. But then they red flag it, so the cars all come into the pits, because it was, again, the whole confusion on, is it an aborted start? Did the race start and they throw a red flag and, like, all this stuff? So the mechanics weren't sure if the cars were going to come onto the front straight and stop for the red flag, or if they were going to come into the pit lane. Like, it was this whole thing. So they all come into the pit lane, obviously, and then it finally stops, like, raining as hard, and the sun comes out and the track dries out and they're able to go back out again. But it was just, like, a major hot mess for everyone.
I feel like those scenarios, like, as a driver, must be such, like a I guess a mind fuck.
Yeah.
In the sense that you're, like, gearing up, you're like, okay, we're gonna start, and that's like, okay, we're aborting the start. And then you have to, like, get yourself back into that zone. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if that affected Kimi Antonelli and his start. Especially, like, first time on pole, sprint race, the weather conditions are not good, and now, like, you thought we were going to start the race, now you're not. Do-over.
Yeah, and then you're just sitting there, like, waiting. You don't know how long you're going to be waiting for. You don't know what the conditions are going to be like once you start back up again, and it's this whole, like, Charles, like, a driver's already crashed, and so, like, that's, like, you're thinking about that, like, what if I do the same thing? Yeah.
It's just all
anarchy.
over.
And turn 1 at Miami this weekend has been incredible, actually.
Great content.
Like,
such good action. Oscar Piastri, the man that you are, really just said, Kimi Antonelli, I know that you're on pole, but watch this.
Yep.
Watch me
holding the inside line, Kimi running wide, and then Kimi trying to say, like, he pushed me off. It's like, no, bestie. No. He was way ahead.
Unfortunately, he did not push you off.
And unfortunately, your wide moment did cause you to trickle back down to 4th. And then Oscar holds on to the lead on his inters for however long.
Yeah, until the track starts drying up and people start deciding to pit. So the first person to pit was Yuki. I mean, he was at the back anyways, and so Red Bull was like, might as well see, get the data and see if it's worth doing max. So he comes in, pits, they realize, okay, yeah, this track is drying up, so more and more of the teams start bringing their drivers in. Lewis is also one of the first people to do it, and the undercut clearly paid off for him because he ended up coming 3rd in the race. But just like last year, the safety car played perfectly into Lando's hands. I mean, you couldn't have asked for anything more perfect for him. I mean, literally, Oscar comes in, Lando stays out for 1 lap, Lando comes in,
Fernando crashes,
liability Lawson takes out Fernando Alonso.
No, let's be honest, I can have a whole tangent on Liam Lawson later. I'm gonna control myself. Liability loss. Fernando.
Yeah, Fernando is forcibly crashed into the wall on not under his own doing.
Involuntarily removed.
Yes, from the race. And safety car comes out as Lando is, like, going into the pit lane, and comes out just before Oscar, and then there is a safety car for the rest of the race, meaning
he wins it.
He gets given the win. So that was, which was nice for me because that meant Lewis could hold position.
Yeah.
As well. But annoyingly, it ended under a safety car, which I get why they did it, but it kind of pissed me off. Like, I would have loved to see them all kind of battle it out, especially to see the McLarens battle it out at the end. That would have been really good.
Give us 1 extra lap.
I know. I do get why they did it. Another heartbreak besides Fernando Alonso, who was about to finally get his first points of the season,
Mm.
was Alex Albon getting a safety car infringement and losing his P4 and being demoted.
Not only did Albon get penalties, but so did Ollie Behrman and Liability Lawson.
And Max Verstappen.
The only thing that made me okay with the penalties was that Yuki made his way back into the points because of it.
Well, this is actually, I forgot about the craziest parts of the sprint race, which was everything that happened in pit lane. So Max comes into pit and gets released.
Yes, into the back of Kimi Antonelli.
Into the back of Kimi Antonelli and completely, like, fucks up Kimi's race because Kimi was coming into pit, but then the mechanics let Max out too soon. Max hits into Kimi, so Kimi's not able to pull into his pit box and has to keep going through the pit lane.
Basically doing a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, basically giving himself a drive-through penalty and getting damage. And that happened right in front of me. I was standing, like, at the first Ferrari garage, so, like, right by, like, the Red Bull entry to do their pits. And it was just, like, all happened in front of me, and I was like, what in the world just happened? So that was the most unsafe release of unsafe releases that could have possibly happened. And then
Max was fuming on the radio.
Yeah.
Literally.
Because, I mean, it wasn't his fault.
What the hell,
like,
guys?
So that was a big mess up on Red Bull's part. And then, like, a couple minutes later, all of a sudden, because again, like, keep us in mind, we have no context for anything that's happening because we can barely see the screens. So, like, that's happening. And then, like, a couple minutes later, Carlos Sainz comes in on 3 tires. And I was like, when did this happen? And he's like, it's sparking so bad that, like, I literally, like, went all the way up against, like, the back wall because I was like, I don't want to get burnt by sparks that are flying off his wheel. And then apparently the tire came off as he was coming into the pit entrance.
Yes, I watched it roll down pit lane.
But it would have been so bad because if that had come off in pit lane, I mean, the amount of people that are in pit lane, like the marshals on one side and mechanics on the other, like that could have knocked someone out and been pretty bad. So I'm really glad it came off before it took someone out on pit lane.
It was kind of like a Twilight Zone.
It was. I was just like, what is happening? I was just like trying to piece together what was going on.
If it's not turn 1 or the pit lane, it's not interesting.
Yeah.
Basically.
So the sprint was definitely something.
I love a sprint race. I will say it. Sprint weekends are so much more entertaining. There's so much more, like, excitement. That's why I love going to COTA every year because it's always a sprint race.
But the sprint race too, because, like, obviously for sprints they don't have to do the mandatory pit stop, but because the changing conditions, and a lot of them did come in for a pit, it made it 10 times more interesting because then you add all that drama of strategy and, like, action in the pit lane. So I must say it was a very, very good sprint. Very happy with the results, obviously, because Lewis got P3. And what was also very cool is, like, where I was working, again, was across from the Ferrari garage, which is right where one of the gates is that goes out onto the straight. And that was the gate that they had their little, like, ceremony at and did all their interviews. So I got to have, like, a front row seat to all of that, which was very cool.
Ugh. I would have had to be, like, resisting the urge to just, like, jump the barricade.
I know.
Hey guys.
The fact that I wanted to, like, just give Lewis a hug. I'm like,
hold me back, guys. Hold me back.
Like, you're so close, yet so far.
And then qualifying, Kimi Antonelli is now at the point in this season where he's outpacing George. At least in a qualifying format. Like, hands
crazy.
down.
He really was on it this weekend. Like, obviously, he had some issues in the actual races, but as far as the putting together, like, a lap and 1 lap pace, he crushed it this weekend.
Yeah. Lewis, our sprint podium king, was out in Q2 with a P12, which is, it's literally so classic Ferrari, because to be a Ferrari fan means you must know how to live through extreme highs and then immediate lows.
And more often than not, the lows outweigh the highs.
Yeah, your depressive episodes are much longer than your
joy. So you hold on to the joy as long as you possibly can.
Look what we gave you, immediately bring you back down to earth.
Yep. It's like Charles does not start, but Lewis gets a sprint podium, but Lewis qualifies P12.
We can't let you have too many good things in a day. However, both Williams make it into Q3, which is not the first time that we've had that this season.
Mm-mm.
Which, again, if you asked me last year, we would think we were crazy. Williams regularly making a Q3 appearance. Logan Sargent could never. I love him.
He could never.
Alex Albon last year couldn't.
No.
Could not.
Yep. No, this car, we've definitely had some improvements. So yeah, qualifying, I mean, Max did Max things.
Max on pole. Yuki's in the top 10. Yuki in the Red Bull is working.
Mm-hmm.
Kimi Antonelli taking P3, splitting the McLarens. So not only did he get sprint pole, but then he qualified at the top 3 for the actual race.
So it's his best qualifying results of the whole season were in this weekend.
It just sounds like Miami might just be
his lucky race.
Like, you know how every driver just has a track that they're suited for? Miami might be his.
Yeah, could be. So he crushed it.
Anything else qualifying? I feel like quali wasn't... When Max gets pole, everything else is straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, my favorite part of all the qualifying sessions when you're, like, at the race or, like, working the race is the walk of shame. And so that's how you know... That's how you know who got eliminated every session. Because, again, like, if you can't read the board, you just watch who is sadly walking from their garage down to get weighed by the F5.
Know who did the worst based on do they still have their helmet on or not.
Yes, well, Jack Doohan was fuming because he was just yelling at his, like...
His radio was insane.
Whoever was walking down there with him, he was pissed. So that is always very entertaining. And my favorite part, actually, was that Hülkenberg made it to Q2, and I've never seen anyone happier in their lives to be knocked out of an elimination. He had the biggest smile on walking from because they have the longest walk, too, like, from one end to the other. Huge smile on his face, smiling at everyone as he's going down. That was like, the difference between Jack Doohan and Nico Hülkenberg getting eliminated right now was just like, what the hell?
See, Nico Hülkenberg is happy with crumbs.
Yeah, Nico's like, I made it to Q2.
I'm in a kick Sauber machine. I'm in the worst car on the grid. Nothing matters because it's not Audi yet. I can crash out every week if I want to.
Yeah. No, he was having a great time.
He's just manifesting his inner K-Mag energy. Being like,
really
I don't care.
K-Mag has never left.
Whatever.
He's just inside Nico now.
He's just inside Nico Hülkenberg.
He possessed him.
Before we start the actual race, we have to talk about the driver's parade and the Lego cars.
That was the best thing I think I've ever seen in my entire life.
The fact that they worked, because at first when I was seeing them, I thought it was just for display. And then I saw that the drivers actually got in and it's Ferrari crashing. So Ferrari.
Well, wasn't it? Who was it? Didn't George
the Williams and the Merc like crashed and the Williams got stuck between the Merc and the wall that they had to get out and have the course car pick them up and take them back. Hilarious. But I don't think I've ever seen such smiles on those drivers' faces. Oh my god, ever. Yeah. Like they were having the best time of their lives. It was like, so cute.
That was the best race we've had all year. And I was
it was so wholesome. Like to go from that to then the drama at Ferrari on the radio.
No, because the two of them looked like, I love you so much, Lewis. I love you too, Charles. And then it's like I hate this guy.
Teenage angst
break while you're at it.
No, the aggression.
It was so good. Honestly, I kind of love George and Kimmy together. Like, they're low-key really cute.
Because Kimmy has no idea what's going on. He's like, I'll just go where you go. Okay.
Yeah. It's like a little puppy that's, like, following its owner around.
He's like, I don't know what to do. I forgot. I loved when he got sprint pole that he didn't know where to go. Because he's like, I've never done this.
He's like, this is my first time.
He was just trying to go do, like, the normal stuff. Okay, gotta go get weighed, and then I dip. And they're like, no, you gotta...
You gotta go do the whole thing.
The other little thing. Trophy. He was like...
Get interviewed.
What? And then when he got P3, he also was like, do I put my stuff on this one?
Like, what am I doing?
Lando and Max are yip-yapping, and Kimmy's like, where's my dad?
Where's George? Help.
Toto, I'm scared.
Dad. It's like when a kid gets lost in the grocery store, and they're like, are you my mommy?
I hope now that he's had that, in future, when he gets pole or, a top 3 that
He
he'll
knows.
know what to do with
Ew.
it. The Lego cars is crazy that it took 2.5 years to do them.
I know.
2.5 years? I didn't
And
hear
then-
that stat.
And then it took these drivers 2.5 minutes to demolish them.
I don't
because
think the
they're
Not even
marshals thought that
surprised.
they were gonna have to be sweeping up Legos when they got to the track that morning.
I don't think anyone at the track thought that that was going to be like a logical conclusion of events. I thought they were going to be like, cool, Lego cars, not understanding that. Do you know these drivers?
Yeah.
Have you seen
Imagine-
these psychopaths?
And Max was so concerned about the marshals getting all the Legos up. He's like, it was super fun, but like there's lots of Legos out there. Like they need to make sure they're sweeping those up. Like that's and then he would be like going back to him, he's like, but they need to be cleaning up those Legos. I was like, Max, they'll clean up the
Chill.
Legos.
It's literally their
I-
job.
Cannot imagine being someone who like spent 2.5 years building that to then watch
For them
the
to
drivers be
muck it
so
up.
uncareful and just be like, me. I'd be like,
It literally felt like when you give like a little kid, you know, the like Barbie Jeeps that you can
Mhm.
drive around in your backyard. It feels like when you give like a little kid their first one of those and they're like, I'm gonna smash stuff.
Yeah.
Dr. Destructo was my brother's nickname, and I think that
Like,
that could be applied to most of the drivers on the grid.
I loved them like all fighting over who was gonna drive it
who
too.
gets to drive?
Like Carlos getting in because Alex was being interviewed, and then Alex realizes that Carlos is sitting in the seat. He's like, you're not driving.
Carlos is like, it's mine now.
It's like, I'm not moving. I got here first.
What they should have just done is driven half a lap, hopped out, hopped back. Like,
Yeah, done
what
like
is
a
it,
Chinese fire drill.
train?
Yeah.
What they should have done is they
Just
should switch
swap.
cars. Like, everyone just go to the car that they want.
Yeah.
What team do you wish you were at?
Yeah.
Switch.
Everyone runs.
They would all be on the McLaren car, all 20 drivers.
That was so good. I love when the drivers' parades are like actually fun like that. The worst ones are when they're all in the big like tractor trailer and they just
Yeah.
drive them around. I like that Coda at least typically does. I mean, they did the big pickup trucks the one year, and then they did the classic cars.
Yeah.
I
a
like the
different
classic
year.
cars one. That one was fun. That was our first year,
Mhm.
right?
Can we? New request: put these bitches in Barbie Jeeps. I want that next.
Yes,
Barbie,
that's
that
the
was
next
so
one.
fun.
Little
Fine.
battery powered ones. I also liked with the Lego cars how slow they were forced to go.
Yes.
Because sometimes I feel like they like zoot past on the driver's parade and you're like, oh, they're gone. But into the race. Max on pole, leads off the start, ends up fighting with Lando after a lockup in turn 1. Apparently they had a little moment of contact, they kissed. And Lando goes a little wide, and then it drops him down the grid into 6th. And similar to Kimi Antonelli being like, he pushed me off. No, he didn't. No, we didn't.
That's Lando's like catchphrase. He pushed me off. He pushed me off.
I just need all of the drivers to remember that we all know a lap 1, turn 1, any kind of incident, the FIA does not care. It's a racing incident.
It's a racing incident.
99% of the time, it is a racing incident. Move on from it. And then at the same exact time that that's happening, Liam Lawson crashes into Jack 2.
Liability Lawson, back at it again.
I honestly
Causing
love liability loss.
Jack to DNF. I don't. I can't.
Well, I love the name.
He is
And the like
kind
chaos
of
he
giving
brings.
K-Mag energy.
It's it feels like such a switch up from like last year where it was like, okay, cool, this kid's got balls.
You mean where he
And
was
now
running
it's just
Fernando
like-
off the road?
You're causing
It
problems.
hasn't changed. He's just been running Fernando off the road since he got in an F1.
He
It's
is
one
Fernando's
thing to
biggest
cause
op.
problems, but you at least have to do well.
Yeah.
You can't be
Insane.
causing problems and running in the back of the race.
Yeah, he's
Man's is
liability
getting
loss.
penalties from P18.
I mean, he
Said, "I'm
is
still
kind
up
of
to-"
just K-Mag. It kind of is just K-Mag, though.
Did
You
K-Mag
guys
possess
have
him?
to have heard it.
It's the
I can see it.
blondes.
It's the blondes.
It's the blondes.
Does the
Is that-
spirit of K-Mag live in all of us and it just comes out at certain points? He's like, okay, I'm now going to go into Lawson. Crash.
But I'm wondering, like, you gotta be crazy because you have to know if you keep this up, you're done. You're
Is
not
he?
finishing in points, you're getting penalties, you're crashing out. Why would a team keep you? You're gonna destroy your career. Nothing holds truer now than that song that someone made on TikTok where it's like, everybody get out of the way, I'm Liam Lawson. It's so real.
I'm Liam Lawson.
Because it's like,
It's
not
so
only
good.
am I causing problems, but I'm also doing a bad job.
Liability lesson.
Yes. Do we write a new song, Liability Lawson?
I think we
Please.
should.
I need it.
Started out in a Red Bull.
Liability
Fucked shit
lesson.
up real bad. Got demoted.
Not the demoted.
Okay, so whatever. Jack doing DNFs, has to stop on track, can't make it back to the pits, virtual safety car. Virtual safety car.
The theme of this race was virtual safety car.
The theme of the race, theme of the party, virtual safety car. That's what I want you all to show up for as my birthday next year.
Virtual safety.
Virtual safety car. So we didn't even get Bert.
No,
We did not get Bert.
Just ridiculous.
Bert took
Later
it
on in
easy.
the race, Liam Lawson will retire the car after running in the back for the
With
entire
floor
race.
damage. I wonder
with
how he got
damage.
that.
But virtual safety car gets us to Kimi Antonelli and Oscar fighting a little bit. Virtual safety car ends. Oscar right past Kimi.
He's like, bye. Nice knowing you.
Gorgeous move on him. Just right around. Just flicked him off like a bug. Bye. And then starts hunting down Max.
Mm-hmm.
Hunting him. Gets past Max. And all the while,
Quite
Lando is
easily.
Max had no
Mhm.
shot.
Yeah.
And at the same time, you've got Lando on a roll, making his way back up the grid from P6,
Making my way downtown.
gets past Kimi for P3, and is now, I got you next, Max, watch this. Unreal. I will say, Lando had that little, like, mess up in the beginning, which I think, like, any driver could have had, going, like, trying to fight the leader into turn 1. He drove like a lunatic all race long. I was like, we get it. You won here last year. You're scaring me.
And I'm trying to find there was this TikTok of like when they're all driving in that little truck to go to the podium and
And he's sitting.
and the interviewer is like interviewing
Oscar.
interviewing Lando, and Lando being like talking about like how it's impossible to get around Max and like you're either gonna get like in contact or whatever, and Oscar's just sitting there like,
I did it though.
it wasn't that hard for me.
Oh my god, wait. No, I'm actually getting ahead of myself. Oscar hasn't gotten... Before Oscar gets past Max, though, Fernando spins and recovers. Liam Lawson is still behind him. The man spun his car all the way around and had to... Liam Lawson is still behind him. In last. Crazy. GP on the radio telling Max, stay to the inside, make him work for it. Iconic. But that fighting is what gave Lando time to catch up to the lead cars.
Did. And then, I mean, honestly, the McLarens then just
Ran away.
a
with
race
the
of their own. Just again, further proving that they're an absolute rocket ship. But then we had some like crazy midfield battling for like 5th down to 9th, which was very entertaining. The Williams-Ferrari saga.
Debacle. Well, there was also, it was like, there was Williams on Williams drama, Ferrari on Ferrari drama this weekend, Williams on Ferrari drama this weekend.
Don't
we
you
did
mean
have it too.
hate on hate crimes?
Carlos.
Ferrari on Ferrari crimes.
No, literally. Why are we always at war with ourselves? I'm sick of it. Before Lando does get past Max, though, he gets past him, but is technically off the track, so he has to give the place back and then take it back again, and la 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 la. Who cares? McLaren's in front. Max is alive.
Somehow.
Yeah, and then, because I think, too, I remember at one point it mentioning how, like, Albon and Carlos were, like, not fighting about swapping positions, because they do actually respect team orders and were like, okay, fine. But Ferrari, on the other hand.
No, Alex Albon disobeyed team orders and passed Carlos.
Passed Carlos. That's what it was.
Because they normally follow team orders pretty well, and Alex was like, I'm deaf.
Sorry, what'd you say?
My headset's not working.
Sorry, what?
Was someone talking to me?
It's too late now. I didn't hear you, but oopsies. Won't do
I'm
it
already
again.
so
I already
far
passed
away.
him, which was the right move because he ended up having lots of pace and came P5
So
in the
much
end.
pace.
But
Oh,
yeah,
well.
we had a little bit of drama.
And then bringing us back to a virtual safety car, Ollie Behrman, mechanical issue, lap 29.
Poor guy. Poor Ollie. He could not catch a break this weekend.
All of them being told, like, box to retire the car, basically, and none of them being able to make it to the pit.
The amount of calls that was like, control to recovery, car 87 will be coming to you after the race on a rollback, control to recovery, car 5 will be coming to you after the race on a rollback.
I think, yeah. I mean, and that gives the opportunity for both McLarens to pit. So I think they double stack.
I think so. They were
And
so
emerge-
far out in front of everyone else anyways.
Come straight back out, still in the lead.
Yeah.
George pits, and this is what I mean when I say George Russell does nothing except wait for an opportunity
Just
to
somehow has
continue
the
to do
best
nothing.
luck. Like,
Pits
literally, what
and comes
sacrifices
out
is he making?
ahead of Max in P3.
Yeah.
In what world does someone get to go make a pit stop and gain a place?
In George's world, whatever sacrifices he's making, they're paying off.
What Etsy witch did he hire? Because
Whoever Toto
Ferrari
sold
needs
his soul to.
It's also bad luck on the fact that Max literally had pit like one lap before the virtual safety car.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for him to go in and pit again.
Yeah.
But once again, George Russell just kind of gambles
Picking
his
up the
way
pieces.
into a podium position. I'm sick of it.
I know. I really
It's very
am over
Schmidt
it.
of you.
I am sick. Nick! George Russell, again? A white man? No! Another car that has to retire, doesn't make it to the pits, Bortoletto, virtual safety car. How many were there this race? Like 5?
Lawson came back under his own power, but then it was
Jack,
doing Bortoletto and
Ollie.
So it's like all the rookies, Barr, Kimmy, and Hadjar.
Dude, RIP to the rookies this season. They are getting bludgeoned.
Yeah, they're having a rough go of it.
Ferrari and Carlos battle, I literally am still not really sure what I watched on my TV screen.
I'm still
was
very
like-
confused.
Like, what's happening? Because basically, was it that Carlos was ahead of both of them?
Yes, at first, I think.
And then Charles gets passed.
And then
and
they're
then
like fighting, and then Lewis
uses that to get past Carlos, almost gets past Charles, but doesn't. So it's basically just a like Williams to the back.
Mhm.
And then that is where we start all of the
Swapping of places.
I want to swap positions. I'm going faster than him.
And then they swap, and then it's like, no, but I want it back.
Right, because I'm faster than him, and now I'm in all this dirty air. And of course, Prince Charles, they listen to him.
He gets
Dude,
his
Fred
way.
Vasseur must be like, I hope he has a good therapist.
Yeah.
Because
I hope they all have good therapists, because
You have the one that you've invested years into, longest contract in the history of Scuderia Ferrari, and then you have a 7-time world champion. And it's like, I don't know how we can make both of you happy.
Yeah.
It's not possible. So, I think they do swap back. Charles finishes in front of Lewis. Neither of them as high up as they should be in a Ferrari in theory.
Yeah.
Like, Alex Albon beat you, and Carlos was right behind. You were in a Williams
Yeah.
sandwich.
Literally.
It's embarrassing. But Oscar Piastri, 6th win,
3 in a row.
3 in a row, 4 this season.
Mm-hmm.
Lando P2, George P3. Also the gap, 30-something second gap.
Insane. At first, I was so confused. Because I was like, are these lapped cars? Like, what's happening? And then I was like, wait, that's a McLaren. Okay, 6 seconds later, there's the second McLaren. Then, like, 25 seconds later, oh, there's George. And then everyone else. I was like, it was insane in person.
Consistently, like, George is leading his own race for 3rd by himself.
Mm-hmm. And then it's a couple seconds before the next car comes. But, like, even just the gap between Oscar and Lando for the longest time. It was like, okay, here comes Oscar.
George gets this opportunity at 3rd, He's in clean air ahead of him because of the gaps in the McLarens. Dude can't even close, like, I don't even know if it's that he can't close the gap. I don't even know if he's attempting to close the gap because he's like, oh, sick, I'm in third.
Yeah, because it's like he knows that he's not going to get past his McLarens anyways.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm just not going to like risk it and lose my podium spot.
I'm just going to try not to have Max kill me.
Yeah.
Which,
exactly.
Whatever. Max P4, Albon P5, Kimi P6, then Charles and Lewis, then Carlos and Yuki. That's our top 10. Not mad about it.
Not mad about it.
But I think I've always thought that Oscar Piastri has had champion potential. This season has done nothing but reinforce that race after race after race. To win 4 of the first 6 races, at your previous 2 like title fighters from last year only have 1 race each with a win. 3rd straight win in a row. Last time that happened at McLaren was in 1998 with Mika Häkkinen. Lando must be so fucking pissed.
And I am living for it.
Because, especially too, because they're friends. It's like, I really like you as a teammate and as a friend, but dude, I hate your fucking guts. Like, that's supposed to be mine.
Yep.
Also, Lando fought so hard for so many years before he got his first race, and then new kid off the block rolls up and is like,
to a good car.
Peace out. Sorry, I'm gonna take everything right from underneath you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care about Lando. I think he's still a whiny baby, so, I mean, power to Oscar, but...
It just makes me sad because it's like, I do think he's worked really hard, and I think he's really helped build McLaren back into a successful team. So I hate to see him not necessarily ever reap some benefit from that in the sense of like a championship. But I'm really starting to think that last year may have been his only real shot at the title.
I think so. And he could have and should have won it, but he choked one too many times.
Yeah. And now that Oscar has won 4 out of the first 6 races, it is going to be extremely difficult to take that.
When he's on such a momentum, like
without starting serious problems in the team.
Yeah.
Because even if Papaya rules come back into play, based on right now alone, they should be prioritizing Oscar. And that's just the truth of it.
Yep. I know. It'll be really interesting. Very interesting to see how the rest of the season plays out. But I would not be surprised if the season ends with Oscar winning that World Drivers' Championship.
Dude, if we get to see Oscar win at COTA, I'll get a tattoo on my face.
Please don't do that. I don't think Oscar would want you to do that either.
You know what he'd do? He'd go.
Correction. If Oscar Piastri wins at COTA, I'll gwiddy on the gwid.
Literally gwiddy on it.
I will literally gwiddy in front of the podium ceremony. And I will let you record it.
So when we watched that earlier in the weekend, we watched that interview with, what was it, Justin Jefferson, I think, like teaching Oscar how to gritty and being like, if you win, like you gotta do the gritty, and Oscar's like, okay, sure. And I mean, I love Oscar, so like I kind of wanted him to win anyways, but then we were like, okay, so Oscar like has to win because I need to see him attempt to gritty. And so at the end of the race, we were able to go down to the end of the pit lane or the Parc Fermé and get to watch. I mean, because obviously the podium isn't there, like, so we didn't see the podium ceremony, but we got to see them all like get out of their cars and celebrate with their teams. Like, we were standing literally in front of like the McLaren team, so like even closer than they were. And I did not think that I was going to be graced with the sight of watching Oscar hit the gritty right in front of me.
Not only that, but you literally saw him pull in, get out of his car, pull off his helmet and everything. Well, the other series didn't happen this week as far as I'm concerned.
I lived, breathed the Miami Autodrome Hard Rock Stadium for the past 5 days. So anything that did not happen in that vicinity was irrelevant to me.
I think we should touch on the difference in Miami this year versus last year in terms of creators and influencers that they brought in. I want to give specific props and kudos not only to Miami GP, but specifically to like Cash App, who brought a lot of the motorsport influencers in, Liquid IV, who brought a lot of the motorsport influencers in. Amazing. Thank you for listening to us.
Hugo Boss.
Hugo Boss. Like, it was actually so refreshing to see the brands and the sponsors that are there take note of feedback that has been given in the past about how like irritating it was watching like makeup influencers who didn't care about anything like make fun of it for content, and actually see like genuinely
people who deserved
all of my favorite creators were there this. But yeah, I gave me a lot of like hope that that is something that can continue in
other races across the calendar and stuff too. I do think Vegas, take notes.
No, literally,
because Miami did a great job this year.
Great job balancing celebrity influence and motorsport influence.
So Miami has come and gone once again. Many ups, many downs, fighting galore, you name it. Some disappointments, some not so disappointments. Some hilarity, some seriousness. And yet, at the end of the day, we have Miami. So, without further ado, we'll see you next time.